On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And you seem very unenthused about us talking about a band you ostensibly enjoy very much.
I do enjoy this band very much. but
so unenthusiastic about saying their name.
I wasn't. It wasn't a lack of enthusiasm. It was me trying to sync up with how you were going to say it, and then I was kind of disappointed and I fucked up.
You thought I was going to go in a different direction with that?
I didn't know how fast or slow you were going to say it, and I said it at a different cadence entirely, and right in the middle of it, I'm like, God damn it! I did not guess the tail.
You went off the end.
Yeah, I did.
You trailed off.
Yeah,
energy wise.
Right.
Today we are continuing Non-Metal March. We're going to talk about an EP, technically.
Yes, an extended play.
Although it's a half an hour long, which is, I feel like, longer than most EPs tend to be. But an EP by Alice in Chains, released in 1994.
Yes, I believe it's the first EP ever to debut at number one on the Billboard chart.
Yeah, people went kind of bananas for it when it came out.
Yeah,
which I think this is very good. And also, it's it was the heyday of just grunge in general, and
1994
and alternative rock, and they were one of the big four of that musical style. So anything they put out would have been popular, but also this was them, kind of dialing it back a little bit and just getting in the studio with their acoustic guitars and putting together something I think is real interesting.
It actually confused me at first.
Why was that? Well, just because it wasn't what you expected. It
wasn't. No, this was the third thing I bought from Alice in Chains, and I'm like, oh, those first two are fantastic. And I hadn't heard Sap yet at that point. Which is another EP that's the similar feel to this. But then I listened to it, and I'm like, this. What happened?
Why they so quiet?
Did they retire?
Are they old now? Yeah. Did they suddenly get very old?
And then of course they made more, heavier great rockin' albums, and then I came back to this and went, oh, this makes more sense now.
Yeah. Now I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Whenever I hear Alice in Chains, what comes into my head is a company that's Alice in Chains. And the guy like, hi, I'm Gary Allison, owner of Alice in Chains. Do you want something to be able to move but not too much? And would you like the thing that keeps it in place to be nice and strong and heavy? Well, we've got something just for you. Whether you need to hold a whole ass ship's anchor or some shit, we got real big ones. And also, if you got a dog of some kind, then we got smaller ones too. You could use the big ones. It'd be bad.
Might kill your dog.
Come on down to Alice in Chains. We got ones made of steel. And this one, it's got vanadium in it. I don't even know what the fuck that does.
Vanadium?
Vanadium.
Vanadium.
Alice in Chains. We make rope out of metal. But it's not a cable.
Yeah.
Which is more like a metal rope than chains technically are. But, yep.
Hey, somebody needs to check Don's breath before we make these fucking commercials.
No, I'm Gary.
Okay, whatever.
My name's Gary. I'm Gary Allison.
Gary Allison, famous country singer.
No, that's my cousin Gary Allen. But yeah, I mean, cables are more like rope.
Right, you realize that halfway through the bit there.
Yeah. Because, the way you make a rope is you wind it.
Right.
And then that's what a cable is.
I wonder if you could make like a rope chain. I suppose you could.
You probably could if you had small enough chains.
Or links.
It would be really, really heavy.
It might be.
It would probably be very heavy. But yeah,
a rope chain.
A rope chain. That's just when you got several ropes and you tie the ends together.
Sure.
That's a chain of ropes for whatever reason.
Can you buy those at Allison?
We don't sell anything that's not made of metal.
So it's metal only.
Metal only.
Gotcha.
Also, vanadium is. I think they usually alloy that with steel for like anvils. I think.
Really.
It makes it really hard. I think is what it do. I think that's what because I feel like I remember seeing an anvil that was like vanadium steel.
That reminds me, I need to rewatch that documentary.
What documentary?
Anvil, the story of Anvil.
Is that a band?
Yeah. Oh, dude, have you never seen this?
No.
Oh,
no.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's from like 10 or 15 years ago, I think, something like that. There's a Canadian metal band called Anvil, and they broke up in like the early 1980s, and they were sort of early wave of sort of burgeoning sort of thrashy kind of bands.
Okay,
and they broke up, and a camera crew got a hold of where they were, and one of them was delivering ingredients to schools for lunches.
Okay,
somewhere in like Toronto.
He was a Senesco driver,
that sort of thing. Yeah. I don't remember what the drummer was doing, but those were the two members of the band, and they had a falling out, and it's this long documentary, and it is hilarious and moving and weird. But they got the band back together, and
that's neat.
And they went on tours, and it was a lot of these little places. They ended up in Europe at one point. There were a club in Poland that sat 4.
Not that there were 4 people there. That was the capacity.
That was max capacity for the room.
Wow.
And and it wasn't a full crowd.
To be fair, I have been to shows in places like that.
I have too.
I think it was like the first metal or like hard concert that I ever went to.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was mostly hardcore, I guess, but it was in Bismarck. A week before I was going to go to Warped Tour for the first time. And it was Silent Planet had just gotten done with like a big cross country tour and ended on the East Coast. And they were like, on our way back to California, we're just gonna like latch onto a bunch of these other shows that are happening,
right,
where people that we know may be performing, and we'll see if they'll let us perform as well. And so one of them was in the back of this record store in Bismarck, in this like room that was probably the size of my living room, which is not big,
right.
And yeah,
for those of you who haven't been in Cale's living room,
I mean, most of the people who listen to this podcast have been in my living room at one point or another.
Good point.
But
petting the blood god, right?
Yeah. It was very small.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
We had a venue like that here called the Liberty, if you remember that at all.
No.
It burned to the ground, but it was.
When did it burn to the ground? Is it possible for me to remember it?
I have no frame. It might have been yesterday. It might have been. It might have been in 1985. It could have been one of those two.
It could have been decades ago, or it might have been yesterday.
But we played it. There was a building in an area of town that doesn't even have buildings in it anymore.
Oh wow!
You know where the other side of Roosevelt Park. You know that area used to have industrial warehouses and homes and things like that, and they eventually just knocked everything. All it is streets there now.
Oh yeah. I think I know where you're talking about.
Yeah, where you can go to what used to be Minot Welding.
Okay, kind of that area. I don't go down to that area very often.
Right. I mean, why would you?
But there's nothing, as you said, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there. Yeah, but there used to be a place called the Liberty. And that was before the flood. So no, you wouldn't have been.
Yeah, I was not. I was alive. I was not here.
Right. But no, it was, the size of a garage, and it had a bar where they would serve soda pop because they didn't have a liquor license. And my
bring
band,
your own booze.
Dredge Can, played there one time, and the stage is about, I don't know, arm's length by arm's length. And
nice.
Yeah. And what was really fun was that the drummer was like elevated slightly. So what I had was a double bass and a snare
in
barking in my ear through the entire thing. And where are we in the song? Fuck if I know.
We just gotta trust our instincts here. I mean, you know when the song starts.
Yeah.
So if you are practiced enough, you can hold it together. As long as you all start on the same beat. If you're really good, you don't need to hear anything.
Yeah.
If you're really good at what you do, you can hold it together the whole time.
Yeah.
There was I think I went to see Carnifex in Fargo one time, and I ended up right in front of the speaker that was pumping through the bass drum.
Right.
And Jesus, like I had never been close enough to a speaker that was playing loudly enough to feel it move my clothes.
It's concussive.
It was remarkable. And this was a point where I had begun wearing like earplugs at concerts.
Sure.
So I was more comfortable being in that position. That was a lesson that I learned after my first year at Warped Tour, where there was a show where me and all my friends ended up right next to the right-hand side speaker at, I can't remember what band was playing, but we were right next to the massive tower of speakers on the right-hand side. And because we were looking at the band, only one side of our heads were catching all of that sound. And we sat on like the little hill that was overlooking where at the time they were having it. Because it was always been roughly the same place in Shakopee. But the last 2 years, they switched from being down in like this grass area to being up in a parking lot, which sucked because it was so much hotter up in the parking lot because it was fucking blacktop.
Right. Blacktop tar. Yeah.
But we they had started doing some kind of construction down where the grass had been. But in any case, we sat back after that show on the grass and all of us were just continually going, what? What? I couldn't hear anything out of our right side. So after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to invest in a little bit of hearing protection. Because like I had, worked at power plant for the summer, and part of physical that I had to get was a hearing test. And they're like, wow, your hearing is amazing. Like you've got a really, really good hearing. And I was like, I'm going to do my best to hold on to that.
See, I had that too. I had a thing where I could hear dog whistles.
What about now?
Oh, no.
You caught me in the middle of a drink.
Yeah. He was doing a shot of scotch.
Yeah.
So you don't shoot scotch, so you sip it. What are you doing?
Yeah. If you're okay, if it's cheap scotch.
Cheap scotch, yeah.
There is such a thing as cheap scotch.
If it's spelled with a K.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I guess you could call it that because it's since it's spelled wrong, it's not technically scotch. So you could make that anywhere. Yeah, you could hear dog whistles.
I used to be able to hear that.
What about now?
I'm having to read your lips now. When you talk behind that
wearing
windscreen,
headphones that are piping my voice directly from 6 inches in front of me.
That's how deaf I am.
Ears.
Yeah.
And also my mouth is behind a pop filter.
Right.
So you must be having a hell of a time.
I'm sorry, what? No, seriously, when I started working at the truck stop, I told you that story, right?
I think so.
Yeah, the cook there, he had 2 dogs that were unruly, and he bought an electronic dog whistle.
Yeah.
He was going to take home, and he hit it once in the kitchen. I'm like, what the fuck was that? He says, do you heard that? He did it again. I'm like, stop it. I'm never taking this home.
Oh, God. When I was in high school, they started, some kids started doing this thing where they would play this, on their phones. There was this like super high pitched noise that they would play entirely to annoy the rest of the class because none of the teachers could hear it.
Right, because you get old and
so like none of the teachers could hear it, but the entire time everyone else in the class would be going, "Fucking God,
yeah,
like turn that shit off." And then we would get like mad at that person, and the teacher would be like, "What's going on?" So yeah, I don't know. I always hated people like being rowdy, specifically when people were being rowdy because they didn't want to be there or they wanted to be done and go do something else and like move on from something. It's like, you understand that the most efficient way to get out of here faster is to not be a piece of shit. Like if we all just chilled the fuck out and did as we were asked, we would be let go faster. But the more you act up, the more the teacher is going to get pissed at us and, chew us out, and the longer we'll be here. Like, I hated that shit because I didn't want to be there either.
Yeah.
It's like I wasn't, I wasn't on the teacher's side trying to be a goody two shoes, but I wanted, to me it was clear that the way forward was compliance, which I don't know if that says something bad about me.
The way forward is, but that's a true statement sometimes.
Sometimes, and for school especially.
Right. There are certain battles you want to pick them, but other things,
it's not worth it.
Let's get this over with, please.
It's not worth the fucking effort and the time and the annoyance of everyone else. Like, yeah, it's just that always bugged the shit out of me where it's like what you're doing affects all of us. And we all want to be done as well. Yeah, I don't know. I always felt like for a long time in high school, I felt like I could see that. And some of the other kids probably could too, but there were times where I felt like I was the only one who understood that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was in a Filipino culture class and there was two guys who sat at the back who were constantly getting on top of their desks and doing dances and shit.
They weren't, "Oh, Captain, my captaining." No,
they were, "Oh, Mr. What's your name? Fuck youing." Yeah. And then it was funny because he was this little Filipino dude. He was a little bit, effeminate somewhat, and he was very nice, and he moved very delicately, and he would take the yardstick and he would say, "Excuse me, Owen," and then he would walk past me, and then he would break the yardstick on the desk. "Sit down," and then
"Shut the fuck up."
Yeah, and then you go back to, "Okay, everybody,"
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he was awesome.
That sounds awesome. Man, I would not redo high school for $1 million.
No.
If someone was like here's $1 million and you will be even if it was everything I know now, it's like you will mentally be yourself. But you gotta redo high school and you'll get $1 billion when you're done again. It's like, no, absolutely fucking not.
You wouldn't pull a Billy Madison. You wouldn't.
No,
you wouldn't do that.
Well, okay. It would have to be like you are mentally transported back into your younger body. Okay, it would have to be that because. I'm an adult with responsibilities. I need a job. It's hard to do that when you're in actual high school. Like otherwise, that's just like nights getting your GED and whatnot, which is not the same as high school.
No, it is not.
And that's the thing I don't want to redo. Like getting your GED and whatnot like at night is absolutely a different thing than being 14 to 18.
If I could have taken like a GED style class, I would have been top of my class.
Yeah.
I'm just hard to instruct.
Just being around the other kids was maybe not the right environment.
It was brutal. Yeah. And then taking lectures. As soon as I left I'll say left high school my senior year, and then I went to the alternative school. I rushed through it. I went through read, work, essay.
It's like, this is where I was supposed to be.
Right. I completed a year and a half's worth of school in like 4 months.
It seems like a change in his environment was perhaps what he needed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, I'm falling apart.
Yeah, you're due to get your back opened up.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's first start talking about my foot. Okay, my foot. I don't know. I kicked something in the dark on my apartment and it left a little abrasion on there. And the problem is that where it is directly under the lip of my shoe. And so it's been rubbing on it for like 2 weeks now. And I finally took a look at it today, and it is discolored. There are a couple of red streaks coming out of it.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, it's probably going to kill me. So there's that. Also, I've been losing the use of my right leg, and it hurts a lot. And so they did an MRI on me, and they said, we'll come back Friday. We'll chit chat about what we see in the MRI. Yeah. And like an hour after I got to work, after having had the MRI, they're like, you need to come in tomorrow. Can you do that?
You need to come talk to us.
Yeah. So I went and I talked to him, and he says, you've blown out this disc right here, and you can see all these nerves coming down, that all the nerves that go to your leg, they're all exposed. You have exposed wiring.
That's usually not good.
It is not. So they want to go in there and put some insulation on there.
They want to wrap some plastic.
Yeah, they do.
Around your nerves.
Around the wires there.
A little bit, melt some rubber over top of them.
Yeah, probably solder them back into the.
Yeah. If only it were that simple.
That'd be great. It's a simple surgery. They said I will recover in like 3 days.
As far as back surgeries go, that's pretty low intensity. Yeah. As far as anything having to do with your spine goes, that's not so bad as it would seem. But I don't getting opened up in any sort of capacity, I don't think is ever fun or easy.
Said it's a 1-inch slit.
That's not too bad. You can just go on. It's not super invasive.
Right. They use a camera.
That's good. Yeah. It's not so bad. The only surgery I've ever had was getting my wisdom teeth removed.
I had that done too. That was great.
How was your experience with that?
My experience, I was 26, I think, when I had that done, and I was working at Wright Radio and Television, and they're like, you need to bring a ride with you, and I didn't want my ex-wife at the time picking me up, or my daughter. Who was, a toddler. But
that was, yeah.
So I talked to the most responsible, reliable person I knew at the time, Mr. Shane Parsons.
Oh, yes. Okay. Coworker of ours.
And they put me to sleep, and they had to take all 4.
Oh, wow.
They took all 4 of mine.
You have told me this story. Okay.
Yeah. And I woke up because I'm going to count down from 100. 99, 98. Your ride is here. That's how that went. I'm like, what? Yep. I was in such pain. For a whole week, I had nothing but Slim Fast, weed, and Percodan.
I mean, that sounds like a pain management slurry. Yeah. That would be pretty effective for getting your wisdom teeth out.
It was.
It seems like the thing to do.
I just sat there and played.
Not a lot of chewing involved.
No, I mean, it was a lot of liquid foods. Yeah. And it was Parsons too. He was the one who we took the shopping cart, and it was my checkbook. I was going to pay for all this shit. Yeah. And he's like, you need a bunch of applesauce, just some of this Slim Fast guts that you have to chew it, and it's got nutrients in it. Here's some carnation shakes, and I'm looking at him, I don't have this much money. I don't have the money for this. It was like a full shopping cart of liquid food. And then we got to the back. He rented me was it a Nintendo he rented? Yeah, okay. He rented a Nintendo and Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
Nice.
He said, here you go. Write him a check, Goj. Okay.
Oh, no.
Drip.
This won't bounce, I promise.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. For me, it wasn't so bad. I was 8. I think I was 17.
Really?
It was.
You were a teenager.
Yeah. I think it was early fall of my
senior
year of high school. Mm-hmm. And it was fine. I got 2 or 3 We talked about this on Sunday, and I think I said 3 at the time. It might have been 2. I don't know. I don't remember a whole lot of what happened because
they put you out.
That's the point.
Yeah.
But I remember the countdown. I don't remember the last number, but then I remember like waking up as I'm being like wheeled out into the waiting room or whatever. And I repeatedly was like, "Where's my iPod?" And they're like, "You're holding it. You have the headphones in. You're listening to music now."
You're like the kid in that video.
Yeah. I didn't say anything terribly embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yeah, my sister and I I think had it done at the same time.
Wow.
I
by the same doctor?
Yeah, I just, we were next to each other and he just, all right, done there, and move over. Just turn. He had a swivel chair and he just swiveled over to the other one.
Swivel chair and a pair of pliers.
Yep. Come to think of it, we weren't actually in a clinic. It was just a guy's garage. And he said he was a doctor, but he wasn't wearing a lab coat. So I don't know.
Weird. He was wearing a Speedo and nipple clamps.
But he did have a sign that said orthopedic surgeon. So
yeah. Or it said something about oral something. I'm not sure what it was.
Or an orthopedic would be
the foot doctor.
That
orthodontic.
Orthodont. Well, it's not quite this.
Orthopedic.
Ortho is mouth.
Is it? But pedic is foot.
A podiatrist is a foot doctor.
Oh,
give me a second.
Orthopedic would be child mouth doctor.
Orthopedic.
That would be kid's dentist.
Let me see. I just want to see what it means. What does an orthopedic surgeon do? It doesn't say anything necessarily about kids. Diagnose and treat conditions of the musculoskeletal system, including bones and joint structures. Oh, so it is. What the fuck?
No, arthropodic surgeon.
Yeah, an arthropodic surgeon.
Right.
Yeah, it's like bones and joints.
Right.
What the fuck? Okay, what's mouth doctor? Google.
Orthodontist? I think it's orthodontist. Periodontist, right. Well, who's Dr. Death Rage? What is he?
He would have been this periodontal surgeon or some such.
That's always going to make me.
His name is pronounced Deathridge, but yeah, that's the guy who yanked my teeth out.
Right. That is Dr. Death Rage.
Yeah. Dr. Death Rage. Like it is spelled Death Rage. And it's awesome. His name is amazing. It's like my friend who is in the Army, his last name is Battle.
Sergeant Battle?
He's an officer.
Oh, he's an officer.
Yeah.
So Captain Battle, maybe.
I don't know if he's gotten promoted beyond lieutenant yet, but Lieutenant Battle. And his dad, I think, was in the Marines. So
sure.
I don't know if his dad was an officer or not, but yeah, the like military history in their family, because you kind of have to.
I hope he makes it at least to the rank of major.
Major battle.
Literally,
like every single rank, it sounds more and okay, maybe not more and more. Major is kind of where it stops.
Yeah.
Sounding awesome.
Colonel Battle.
It's not bad. General Battle sounds a little boring.
Yeah, it's just a general battle. It's
a little generic.
Yeah. What were they using? Guns? Were they using bombs?
Well, things didn't get very specific. It was just a general battle.
Right.
It was, guys on both sides, they're shooting, and there were some tanks there, but not a lot.
Some people carried sticks. Yeah.
Things just stayed pretty generic. Things, didn't get very specific. Let's talk about Alice in Chains.
All right.
So Alice in Chains is an American alternative rock band.
Yeah,
shall we say?
They verge on metal a lot.
Incorporating a lot of like heavy metal elements and definitely alternative metal of the 90s. And definitely like as much as grunge is a genre in and of itself, I think it's appropriate to call Alice in Chains a grunge band.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like grunge is often considered a genre, but it was kind of more of just a trend, a musical flavor that you could put on top of sort of other kinds of rock almost.
Right. Because grunge encapsulated a lot of stuff.
Yeah, grunge was more than just music. It was, a vision. I mean, kind of in the same way as punk, but
with more flannel.
Yeah, with more flannel.
Yeah,
less mohawks and leather, more flannel and sort of longer hair. Kind of throwing back to the visual style of classic rock in the 70s.
Right.
But yeah, the Alice in Chains is considered one of the front runners of the grunge movement in the early 90s, along with Nirvana and Soundgarden. And who am I missing?
Nirvana, Soundgarden, and who's the fourth one? Not the Meat Puppets? No.
Give me a second here. Gotta move some
Pearl
tabs.
Jam.
Pearl Jam. You're 100% correct.
Yes. All right. Yeah. I forgot about. How did I forget about Pearl Jam?
I don't know how one could forget about Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of considered to be the big driving forces of the genre. I was trying to remember if this is one of the bands that Seth Everman was in, but the other one besides Nirvana was Soundgarden.
Right.
He got kicked out of Soundgarden, then he got or I think he left Soundgarden, then he got kicked out of Nirvana, and then he was like, "Fuck it, I'm going to join the Navy SEALs," and he did.
Yeah.
And then I think I can't remember what he did after that. He might be a doctor now. I don't know.
And he killed Bin Laden.
Yeah, Seth Everman killed Osama bin Laden.
Right.
But what's your story with Alice in Chains?
Alice in Chains, I got their first the first album of theirs I got was of course Facelift. I got that on cassette at the recommendation of my friend Scott. And I'm like, this is different. I don't know how to feel about this. And then I listened to it enough to where it went, okay, I get it. And then I think the second thing I heard of theirs was Dirt. And if you've ever heard Dirt,
I probably heard something off of it at some point in my life.
Fantastic album.
I have not listened to a lot of grunge in my time outside of what has been just sort of around culturally.
I saw this band actually in concert. I saw them at Lollapalooza in '93, just after Dirt came out.
Lollapalooza in 1993
at the Target Center.
What was that like?
It was fantastic. I was 19 years old.
Okay.
And it was me and Chuck and Jim and Weedle. We drove.
Was that a nickname or was that okay? Sounds like a Pokemon.
Chuck was also a nickname.
Okay.
His real name was Charles.
Yeah.
So we drove to Minneapolis. We stay in a hotel room. Man, it was such a blur. Which it sucks that there are a lot of these great concert moments that I've been to that ended up being such a blur because I can't not get fucked up at a concert.
Yeah.
So I ended up, and this was like in a couple of days concert. So I mean, who was there? Primus was there. Alice in Chains was there. Tool was there.
Oh god damn.
Yeah, it was a lot of great bands. Front 242, you probably never heard of them, but
no.
they're sort of a Babes in Toyland. It was a great weekend.
Yeah, that sounds like a hell of a show.
Yeah, and actually, Jerry Cantrell, the guitar player for
yes.
I told you. Oh, Doug went with us. That's who the other person was. Doug went with us.
Was that a nickname?
Yeah, his real name was Douglas, right?
Okay.
And I had this really cool black leather ball cap that I really liked.
Okay.
And I wore it a lot. And he was so excited standing next to me watching Alice in Chains, he grabbed my hat and whipped it at Jerry Cantrell.
What did Jerry Cantrell do?
He didn't notice, and I never saw the thing again. So
after the show, Jerry Cantrell went, "It's my hat now." Little did you know, he's been wearing that hat ever since.
It'd be weird to see they put out a new album. What's he wearing?
Is that my hat?
Is that my hat?
Is Jerry Cantrell wearing my hat? Speaking of Jerry Cantrell, I think one of the things that sort of, to my knowledge, sets Alice in Chains apart, sort of their thing, seems to have been the fact that on so much of their work, there is a lot of harmonies between Jerry and
Lane.
Lane Staley. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of vocal harmonies that give their they have a very unique voice together that sort of sets them apart from some of their contemporaries in the grunge movement. It's very identifiable, I think.
And it's all over this album. It's everywhere.
A ton of this.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like you can kind of show that off more with something that is a bit slower paced and is a bit moodier and a little bit more dialed back. I think you can show off some of the nuance of that. Maybe, I don't know.
Right.
But we were talking about, I think we mentioned it while we were on Michael already, that when you got this album, it was kind of like, what is this?
What is this? Right.
This is different. This is weird.
It confused me.
Yeah, it confused you. For whatever reason, with the name Jar of Flies, I keep on in my head saying it as if I'm Michael Ackerfeld. And it's jar of flies.
Jar of lies.
Yeah, instead of jar of flies, it would be jar of lies.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just the thing that keeps happening.
Sort of like that song that we played on the radio. I don't know how many years ago. Jar of farts.
Jar of. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Remember?
Yeah. I can't even.
What the hell's her name?
Christina something.
Who do you think you are? Farting in a jar.
Farting.
Collecting your jar of farts.
Your jar of farts.
Yeah.
It's Christina something.
Not Perry, is it? No.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's Christina Perry. Because I think the thing for me in my brain was like Christina Perry, Katy Perry. Not related. Yeah, not related to each other at all. I think their last names were spelled differently.
Also not related to William Perry.
Or
who's a linebacker for the Chicago.
Or Steve Perry.
Right.
Lead vocalist for Journey.
Or Periwinkle, the purplish color.
Or Perry the Platypus.
Right.
Fictional detective.
Secret agent.
Right. Secret agent.
For Alka. Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction.
Or why can't I remember his name? Fucking Chandler Bing.
Oh,
Matt Perry.
Matthew Perry. Yeah.
God damn it. Could this bit be any stupider? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Does this album slap?
In its way, it does. I mean, it's not heavy, but I
think it's a little too slow and a little too introspective to kind of say like, oh, this really slaps. The last track is kind of a bit more of a
swing on this.
It's a bit faster, a bit.
Sure. It's kind of goofy, right?
Yeah, it's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, it swing on because I don't have a ton of frame of reference. Swing on this feels like it kind of ends up in sort of Pearl Jam territory there. Something about it, I don't know, feels.
I like how it ends with boredom. They're like, we're got bored playing this song.
That sounded pretty good.
That's really good.
That sounds fucking awesome.
Oh, it's cool.
But yeah, it gets a little more high energy than a lot of the rest of the album.
Right.
You have a bit more, I don't know if it was distorted guitar or anything on there, but more electric guitar on there. There's a lot of clean guitar on this EP.
And there's some good leads on here.
Yeah, for sure.
The Wasp and the Whale is all just one lead guitar. So it is.
So looking at like scores for this album, kind of all over the place as far as ratings go. Obviously, like you talked about how high it debuted when it came out, like as an EP for a grunge band, an insanely big debut for this album. But the reviews seemed to be kind of all over the place, mostly positive. There were a couple that seemed far too negative, in my opinion. But out of 10, came out to 73.5, which I still feel like is lower than deserved.
Because of people that were throwing the curve by.
Yeah, there were some people that really threw the curve on this. Like, let me scroll up here. It got a 4 out of 10 from a publication called NME.
NME, that sounds familiar.
The Los Angeles Times gave it a 2 out of 4.
Really?
But which is not like the worst in the world, but out
Still
of 4. Also,
Yeah.
out of 4 rating systems piss me off because it's like that's so few. Like it's like I feel like 10 out of 10 can or like. I think 10 is pretty good. 5 is fine if you do half ratings.
Right.
But like 4,
it's an average album.
Yeah, 4 I think is just too little. Too little.
Of course, if you really want to look at it the way we do this rating system, it effectively is a 1 out of 2. It's
yeah. Well, for us, we're not trying to like objectively state anything. This is basically just
we're not critiquing anything.
Yeah, we like this and we would recommend you listen to it.
Right.
Like that's really all it is. If it's a silver, then it means this is probably, it's worth your time. Go listen to it. You might like it. If it's a gold, then that's us saying, hey, we really like this. You should really go listen to this. And if it's a bronze, it's usually me saying, I didn't like this and I wouldn't recommend you listen to it.
Right.
Because have you ever given anything a bronze before?
I don't think I have. I don't think I've given a bronze.
At least any albums. I know we gave
movies.
Some movies that we've talked about every once in a while when we do a movie episode.
I think that have there been we watched a good movie, didn't we? There was a good one?
Green Room. We watched Green Room.
That was a good movie.
We really liked that.
Yeah.
Because it's a great movie.
And then the other 2 movies we watched, for some ungodly fucked up reason, we watched Cats.
We watched Cats because it was closing in on my birthday.
Oh, sure. Like it is now.
And I just decided it was time to watch it.
Jesus.
It was the beginning of the pandemic. And it was like, you know what? There's no rules anymore. We get to watch Cats. And then we also watched there's 2 other movies that we watched Lords of Chaos and we watched
Can't talk long, gotta poop.
The
Fanatic, right.
Directed by Fred Durst. That's the reason we watched that one is because it was directed by Fred Durst.
Right. And the reason we watched
Lords of Chaos.
Because it was about mayhem.
Yeah, about mayhem and directed by a guy who used to be in a black metal band.
We should watch the Danzig movie.
I don't know, man. I've seen clips from it, and I feel like I've seen enough. I've seen clips of that movie, and I'm just like, I don't have any real desire to actually watch this. It seems like it's not even funny bad. Like it seems like it's too bad to even be funny. I don't know. Fucking Glenn Danzig.
Did you ever hear that story that somebody posted? I think it was like Rolling Stone or whatever. That they were talking about how they were so excited to get to see Glenn Danzig in backstage. We're gonna party with Glenn Danzig. I got backstage passes.
And he was just like,
yeah, he gave everybody a piece of fruit and explained the virtues of working out. You know.
Well, and it's important to I think important context is also what year it was too. Because it's like if it was somewhat recently, it's like, what do you expect? The man's,
in his mid 60s.
Like, yeah, he's not going fucking nuts anymore.
If he ever was.
Yeah, if he ever acted that way. I don't know. I don't know a lot about Glenn Danzig.
The evil Elvis.
The evil Elvis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Back to the album at hand here. What's your favorite song?
It's really the obvious picks. It's I Stay Away and it's maybe a time between I Stay Away and what the hell's the name of the song after it?
No Excuses.
No Excuses. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Nutshell.
All right.
I just thought the vibe of it was just really, I don't know, I was really digging it. I was really digging the vibe of it and just sort of how it's a really bleak sort of song.
It is.
I just kind of, I don't know. I was into it. I was into it at the time. I enjoyed a lot of the tracks on this album, and in a way that definitely made me think like I should probably check out more from this band. Because like grunge is kind of kind of a blind spot for me. I think primarily because it's like
you were born in 1996.
Yeah,
that's a big part of it.
but also because it's like there's I've listened to plenty of stuff from the late 80s and throughout the 90s, but most of that is death metal,
right?
And like grindcore and stuff. So I think part of the reason why I have that blind spot for it is because it's just not heavy enough,
right?
So I think now I might be in more of a space to be more receptive to something that's not quite as heavy and crazy, and give a bit more of a listen to more Alice in Chains at some point, and maybe some of the other big grunge bands as well, because like I've never properly listened to anything by Nirvana that hasn't been played on the radio.
Really?
Like I
had like 3 albums.
Yeah, I know. Like it's not a very big task to listen through their entire discography, but I just haven't done it because it's one of those. It's kind of like Metallica, where it's like they've just always been around, and you can be exposed to them and listen to them and hear them without ever having to really seek them out. So yeah, at some point I should probably listen to more Nirvana. They definitely don't have the Metallica problem of making far more albums people don't care about than the ones that they do.
Right. Because they made all their albums were important in their way.
Yes. So yeah, at some point I will have to make an effort to do that.
Yeah.
What metal are you bestowing upon Jar of Flies, like Maskanata to Chewbacca?
I keep waffling on this. I think High Silver is probably where I'm going to land on this.
I would agree with you there. Yeah. I'd call it a High Silver. There's nothing, incredibly compelling about this, but it's definitely I enjoyed it, and like I said, it does give me an itch to go like, oh, I like this vibe. And there were times when I was listening to this going like, I would like to hear like, okay, I've heard what this sounds like stripped down. Now I want to hear what it sounds like when they go all out. And it got me there. There were moments where I was just like, I can feel them on the edge of like musically wanting to take this further, but them stopping themselves and going, this is the EP where we don't do that.
Right.
So yeah, I would like to check a bit more of them out here. So next week, I want to talk about something that I was certain we had talked about before, but I looked through our back catalog and we haven't. It's a band that the two of us on and off mic have talked about a lot. We've listened to stuff from the thing I'm going to bring many times, and I'm sure we've talked about it on the podcast, but not as the official subject. And I looked and I'm pretty sure we haven't done an episode on it. It's Live at Madison Square Garden from Wolfpack.
Awesome.
I was almost certain we had done an episode, but I looked through past Septembers and Marches. I searched, all the different keywords that would come up in our library, and nothing came up. And you know what? Even if we have talked about it before,
let's talk about it again.
Fuck it. Why it's our show. Why do we care?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing is the Live at Madison Square Garden album has a visual component.
It does.
You can sit and watch it.
It's fantastic. And I would recommend it for anybody who likes to listen to stuff ahead of time.
Anybody
watch the video component of it. It's all on YouTube.
If you're a person who likes to listen to things,
watch it as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to be talking about it next week, because it's been a little while since I've gotten a Wolfpack fix. And the thing I like about Live at Madison Square Garden is it brings together a bit of everything they had done up until that point. So as a way to introduce people to the band, I think it's kind of a cool, good, interesting thing, because if you show them like one little thing, they're like, oh, that's kind of like a charming, funk band of hipsters in this room. But like, this little funk band, it's like, no, here's a hour and a half long video of how they sold out Madison Square Garden.
The first unsigned band ever to do that.
Like, yeah, like they're not a little thing.
Right.
So yeah, I really, really enjoy them. I'm excited to talk about them next week. So,
sweet.
If you are excited to listen to us talk about Wolfpack next week, then go ahead and follow us on Facebook or Twitter if you want to. Or if you have wisely chosen to leave those sites entirely, then just subscribe to our feeds on whatever it is you're using to listen to us.
If you have a mobile device, odds are we're in the podcast app.
Whatever podcast app you have.
Yeah.
If you have an iOS device, well, that's just your podcast app. And if you got an Android, go ahead and download the podcast source from Libsyn, who are the people that publish our podcast and give them money to do so. So thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.